Starting a business, whether that's a lemonade stand or a surrogacy agency for that matter, is a little bit like how a chef prepares something. Starting an agency is no different. To achieve that, you need in place a little mise en place. Oh yeah, let's get fancy today. What's up? I'm Corlandos Scott, and I am a surrogacy attorney in Los Angeles. I've dedicated my entire practice around helping people grow their family through assisted reproductive technologies like surrogacy. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about how can I start a surrogacy agency. We're going to look at how to get set up. We'll talk about some crucial decisions that you'll have to make. We'll take a look at who you need on your team, and we'll even talk about how to get paid. Let's jump into it. So I started off with my fancy French word mise en place, but it simply means setting up or everything in its place. And that's really what has to happen whenever you start a business. Everything needs to be in its place. As they say, running a business means that the buck starts and it stops with you. And since the buck starts and stops with you, that means any uncalculated or wrong move could mean you're bleeding your business or you're bleeding your pockets. And who was it that said, to be successful, you have to have your heart in your business and your business in your heart? I don't know, maybe I could have totally just made that up right there. Matter of fact, why don't we say I said it? Yeah, you got to have your heart in your business and your business in your heart. Now, you don't have to know all the answers yet, but nothing beats being prepared. So first, we got to talk about how to get set up. What type of surrogacy agency do you want to set up? Let's think about this. Do you plan to set up an actual office or a virtual office? And we all know that these days with teleconferencing and video chatting that, it's not as taboo a subject to have a home office and that be your exclusive office. But these are things we have to think about up front. Who's your market or who's your clientele? Who will you be catering to? Is it going to be an international clientele or is it going to be a US-based clientele? Are you going to be catering to surrogates as well as donors? These are things that we have to think about when you're setting up your business from the very beginning. Now, as a surrogacy attorney, I've had the honor of helping a number of people start their agencies. Like any other business, your business has to be set up. You need a legal entity, you need paperwork, you need all sorts of forms and consents and things like that. You need client retainer agreements and all those kind of things. And as a lawyer who's done business law and also assisted reproduction, I was positioned to really help them out. But one of the things that was not in place for many of the people who came to me to start their agency was a well thought through plan of exactly who they were going to be as an agency. And I don't want that to happen to you. So now we have to think about some crucial decisions when you're creating your brand or who you're going to serve. We have to think about things like, what are your recruiting protocols? You have to create a standard list to weed out unqualified surrogates and or donors if you're going that route. Your program has to run a certain type of way. The public and hopeful parents should be able to look at your business and know exactly the type of surrogates and donors that you put forward because it's your brand. Some of my favorite agencies to work with are the ones that have a particular brand. Now, some agencies that I've worked with have a particular brand around ethnicity and social group type. So, for instance, I know of agencies that work with Asian donors. I also know agencies that they specialize in Jewish donors. So I'm not saying that you have to limit yourself to one ethnicity, but I'm giving examples of agencies who have carved out their niche in the practice. Next, give some thought to how you'll execute your matching procedures. And this is something that's even as minuscule as, will you be sending out questionnaire forms or will you be doing it a different way? How will you create those potential matches? Will you have a roster of clinics and doctors and law firms that your clients can look to for recommendations for how to handle the other parts of their process? A helpful way to make that happen is to gain membership or become affiliated with organizations and committees that are involved in assisted reproductive technology. And trust me, there's no shortage of organizations and committees that you can join and get involved in. There's even something we call conference season, where every month it seems during the spring and leading up to the fall, there's a different conference in a different city in the US all around assisted reproduction. And you'll wear yourself out bouncing around to all these different conferences. But I say that to tell you and show you that you can get involved with like-minded professionals that will help you put some of these pieces of the puzzle together. Now it comes time to choose your location. Which state, which city? Location matters. So tell me, where do you want to set up shop? You know, I say that because you may say, well, Corlandos, I want to set up shop where I live. But the thing you need to know is you probably want to check the local laws, because that will help determine if your agency will thrive or become successful with local matches. Now, as an agency, maybe you can work across state lines and, set up business entities in other states and have, registrations in other states with your business, so you can work with surrogates and parents everywhere across the U.S. But chances are you want to work where you live, but you need to check if where you live is friendly to the surrogacy process. You definitely don't want to set up shop in a state where surrogacy is not legal. Well, unless you love a challenge and an uphill battle. Another question to ask yourself is just a simple business question. How many similar agencies are already in your chosen locale? And what services are they offering? Of course, you want to scope the competition. Now, one of the things that I love about assisted reproduction, although we have competitors, there are other lawyers who do what I do. There are other agencies who will do what you do. It's a really collaborative community. And there are enough clients out there. There's enough to go around. There's not a pie mentality, at least in my estimation, with the colleagues that I work with. I've carte blanche to call a number of attorneys and just ask them questions and bounce ideas off of them. And I've never found an attorney who has been standoffish or unwilling to help me. And I try to also convey that to the attorneys who call me. And I think you may find the same with surrogacy agencies. So again, that's why there's a good reason to plug yourself into a community of like-minded professionals. So let's talk about your team. I know you're amazing, but you can't do everything yourself. So let's talk about the team you need around you. But before we do that, look, if you like this video, tell YouTube. How do you do that? You click that thumbs up button. It lets YouTube know that you like this video and you think that, somebody else might benefit from it. So go ahead, click the like button, subscribe, and even hit that bell. That lets you know when I release new videos so you don't miss anything. Nobody likes FOMO. No, it's not good. So to your team. This is one of the most important aspects of setting up your agency. Now, your team will be the ones who will make or break your chances for success. I know that when you're just starting, you want to try to be as much of a one-man team as you can, but just know at least the people or the positions you need to have on your team. Even though you may be filling in every one of those positions, it's good to have that organizational structure in mind so that when it comes time for you to put somebody else in that position, you'll know exactly where to plug them in. So let's decide on your agency structure. What's your organizational structure going to be like? How are your agency activities organized and directed? How many departments will your agency have? Who will lead each department? What will each department do? My goodness, a lot of stuff to think about, right? Well, we know that before you start hiring staff and you're getting directors for each category, you want to think about it. Is there a surrogacy component to your agency? Is there a donation component to your agency? These are things that may need to have a team lead, a surrogacy lead or a donor lead. You also want to think about the finances. One of the purposes that agencies serve is to help keep up with the financial arrangements in a surrogacy or donor journey. So for instance, the agency is going to be keeping up with when the surrogate or donor needs to be paid. They're going to be making those payment requests. They're going to be keeping up with whether the surrogate and donor gets paid. So you may need a finance manager. You also want to think about a case manager. And a case manager is exactly that. Each of your matches you can think of as a case. So you have intended parent John and Jane Doe matched with Sarah the surrogate. That's a case. And you want someone who can look at that case and know exactly where we are. Has she been screened? Has she gone in for her psych evaluation? Oh, has she started meds yet? Did we get the pregnancy results back? What week is she? When are we going to deliver? You want someone who can manage the entirety of that case. And while at first it'll probably be you want to be able to have in mind processes for the person who steps up under you to take on those case management duties. There's also the idea of the case coordinator. Now, sometimes when your agency grows big enough, agencies will have a separate manager from the coordinator. And sometimes that coordinator will handle everything up to and through matching, and then the manager takes over from there. So when we're talking about finding the right surrogate, putting the right parent with the right surrogate and the right team together, getting those professionals on board, that will be the coordinator's job, and they will coordinate the process and then hand that off to a manager. Again, when you're starting off, it'll probably be you wearing all these different hats, but you want to at least have the position defined so that the person who comes in after you can step into that position and be ready to rock and roll. Last but not least, it's time to get you paid. I mean, it is, after all, a business that I think is one of the most life-changing businesses around, but it's still a business at the end of the day, and you can't keep helping people for long if you can't stay in business. So you have to ask yourself some questions about your agency fee structure. One of the first questions that I always ask is, does the agency offer free or paid initial consultations? Now, it ranges from agency to agency, and it ranges with experience level and the type of agency that we're talking about. But oftentimes you'll find that agencies will at least have some level of free engagement so that the intended or hopeful parent can get at least a baseline understanding of who they might get the chance to work with. Will you get a percentage for each match, or will that change depending on the package or the program that they choose? I know some agencies have different levels of service that they offer hopeful parents, depending on what level of touch or level of care they need. Some parents don't need that much. They want to be more hands-off. They only need to be matched and they don't need to be managed. Or they only need them to manage the case, but they don't need anyone to match them because maybe they're working with a family member or a friend. So what type of packages will you offer? And of course, you're going to have to market your agency. To do this, you need to identify your brand. Who are you? What type of agency are you going to be? Are you straightforward? Are you customer-centered? Do you cater to a specific demographic? There are agencies out there for almost any type of hopeful parent, and it's best if you know what kind you're going to be. And then last but not least, I'd say, of course, network. You can't be an island unto yourself and thrive in a community that's based on a number of people working together to help somebody grow their family. And let me say this, I'm willing to be one of the first people in your community. If you're thinking about starting a surrogacy agency and you're wondering where to start, don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can leave a comment below, or you can even visit me at the link below, and we can have a conversation about what your goals are, and if there's any way I can help you, I'll be more than happy to. But you have to have a community around you, because in ART, we're not only dealing with people, but we're holding those people's dreams in our hands. And it's crucial that if we're going to be doing business right, we have to do it the right way. Good luck setting up your agency, and talk to me if you need some help.